how many things have been created because somebody saw something that wasn't true and thought, what if?
What if?
What if? You know? So I just thought it was interesting.
It is.
It's interesting.
Why are we talking about William Shatner? People are probably saying, what in the hell? Why are these guys talking about
So
him?
apparently people don't even know who the hell he is.
Seriously, who the hell's William Shatner? He just went to space. I mean, Captain Kirk went to space.
At
He was 90 years old. 90 years old. And he's moving around like he's
Can
60.
I just say he does not look 90?
He doesn't. I was shocked when you told me he was 90 years old.
Like the man doesn't age. Like
No.
it's like he aged to a certain point and it's just stopped. It's really weird. Like
It is.
He does. If you look at him versus the way most people age, say between 70 and 90, there's usually a significant difference there. This guy's like he doesn't age.
No.
I mean, you know.
And his voice has not changed at all. Like his voice, usually when you get up to a certain age, I start to notice there's a little bit more of a rasp, a little bit more of a rattle. There's a little
Good
uneasiness.
Genes. I guess he's got good genes.
It must be, because he must have those longevity genes, those Norwegians like my wife have, because I'm telling you, this guy, after he got back from his long flight into space, all of 10 minutes up and back, a short commute, aboard the, I believe it was Bezos' Blue Origin New Shepard rocket. Pretty exciting for him.
The penis rocket.
The penis rocket. He came back down, landed, and he was overrun with emotion, first of all, but he was talking like so beautiful. He was almost like he was recording, one of these podcasts, or he was recording his audiobook memoir. He was just so, like, the way he speaks is very, I don't know, it's just very, very calming to me. It's just so funny.
So what was the emotion about? Because he was really, I mean, like, it was almost like, you kind of think like this guy's gonna have a breakdown.
Yeah,
or something.
it felt like it. Like if you go and watch some of the footage after he gets back, and I mean, it's sort of like after anything exciting happens in this world, there's always a person there to shove a microphone in your face, right? So he immediately steps off after going 2,000 miles an hour up and then back down, lands safely. First of all, he knows he's not going to die anymore, so he's setting foot on this desert soil, feeling really good, and then all of a sudden, he just puts his hand to his head as if he was going to go down because he was so overwhelmed with emotion. He got a chance to see the little blue marble up there. He got a chance to look down on this little beautiful speck of earth that we see, and I think he just got overrun. And
how little does it look at the height that because it wasn't like they went halfway to the moon.
No, you must be able to see, because you break through that one layer and you must be able to see it.
They say you can see the curvature.
Okay,
right?
so that's probably what he saw. And and every news organization was trying to make it about, climate change and all these other sorts of things. I think he was just like you had said earlier on, and I'd like you to repeat it for the listeners because it was said off air, about, he's 90. This is probably one of the last great things this man will ever do. Yeah.
So I was not aware. So I was doing a live event when he went up that day, and I acknowledged that he went up and that he was 90. So I didn't get to see him when he came back down until you told me how emotional he was, and I was like, okay, I get it. It's probably an emotional thing. I could see that it being an emotional thing. But then when I saw it, I was like, what is this about? Like, what's going on with him? And there were two things that occurred to me. Anytime that you do something where you literally are conscious that you're risking your life, there's this psych up that you go through, right? And you're trying to keep your mind positive. You're focused on what you're doing. You're starting to stay excited about it, but you're also trying to suppress fear to some degree.
Sure.
So he does this, he does this, he does this. I mean, it's not like we know that every time they do this, there's a big chance that they're going to die. Like there's just a huge chance that this can happen. And then when you come down and you realize now you're safe, it's like all of that emotion just drops. It's like everything drops, and you tank out, and then it's just like a raw emotion because you can't control it anymore. It's like amygdala overload at that point. You're just raw emotion. So I was thinking about that. Like I can definitely see how that could be playing a role. And then I thought, the other thing. This is probably one of the biggest things this guy's ever done.
Right.
He knows he's 90. He doesn't, life's short at this point, right? And he knows that it's short at this point. And it might be just some kind of verification, like this might be like I'm going out on a peak, right? This is, no other 90-year-old has ever done this. I mean, there's probably very, very few 90-year-olds that are healthy enough where they would be like, okay, it's okay for this guy to go.
Yeah.
You know,
got to clear
because
medical to get up there.
That's a huge strain on the body.
Absolutely.
You know, how many G's are they pulling?
Yeah, even for the 10 or 11 minutes there in space, you know, it's like it's a quick trip, but you're right. They go top speed over 2,000 miles an hour. I mean, they're up there and they're weightless for a moment, so they're able to, I believe, you know, get
look
out.
Look up the speed. It's got to be more than that. I know that they have to, when they send something into space, they have to go 18,000 miles an hour to break the Earth's gravitational pull to get outside of the.
Yeah. So according to this website, the capsule reaches a top speed of 2,233 miles during launch because they're not breaking completely out of the atmosphere.
Right.
So to get out of the atmosphere, it's much more than that.
So they don't need to go that fast.
They do not need to go that fast. But in order to achieve the area where they're able to be...
Not that 2,000 miles an hour is slow.
Right, exactly. But I mean, still, and that's one of the things that when they talked to him after he got down and they were spraying champagne and he was completely overwhelmed with emotion. I mean, he had just gone, 2,200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
He came back down and he saw this world that was in peril. And like I said, they were trying to make it about climate change. We're not here to talk about that, but he was very, very emotional. But then he realized the camera was on him, and then I could feel him going into the Shatner that we know and love. He was definitely going into acting, and of course Jeff Bezos was there, telling him how beautiful his wise words were, and it was a really cool moment. I'm not here to be like, oh my God, there's Shatner being Shatner, but it was really cool to see, and it got me thinking, about we could have a conversation about this guy. What I didn't realize was that the Star Trek original series was only on the air for 3 years. Like, it feels like...
So it's like for 20 years.
Yeah,
right?
It feels like it was there forever, but it was only 3 years that this was on the air. I mean, clearly they rolled it into movies and then, of course, television series and all these other sorts of things. But... he is known as Captain Kirk. I mean, that's the guy that you remember. When you see William Shatner, you remember him as Captain Kirk. He did many other roles, but clearly that was the one. And that ended in 1969, the television series. Now, of course, movies subsequently.
It ended in 69.
69.
The year we went to the moon.
The year of your birth, this series was launched.
It started in 66.
66. It started in 66, the very first season.
I watched it when I was a kid.
I was going to say, did you watch some of those reruns?
But it was already off the air
Yeah.
when I was watching it.
Yeah.
Like me and my friends, when we would watch it, all the Trekkies, it was no longer prime time. It was all reruns at that point.
Totally. Interesting. So did you enjoy the series?
Loved
did you
it.
enjoy? Yeah.
Loved it as a kid. I was not into it when it was on in 69 or probably even 70, 71. It was a little bit later. As I got a little bit older, probably like 9 or 10, then I really started getting into it and loved it, and then we watched it all the time. But something that's interesting about this is the marketing idea behind this. And because I heard that there was a bit of a negotiating thing, like Branson wanted him. And Branson couldn't get him.
The billionaire space race here.
Yes,
so they wanted Shatner.
Yes. Branson, Richard Branson wanted Shatner on his deal, and for whatever reason couldn't. Bezos got him.
Interesting.
So there was a fight. There was a
Shatner.
fight.
They wanted Shatner because he's Captain Kirk. He's in the zeitgeist as far as the guy.
Yeah, and so think about how many paradigms this broke. Right, you take a guy who was known for like Star Trek was like probably the first sci-fi that really took us out into space. It predates Star Wars, and,
absolutely,
and E.T. and all that stuff. And science fiction then is so much. Think about it like this: how many things were science fiction in Star Trek that we actually have for real now? Think about the flip phone.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Think about the flip phone. Think about
the
laser. Right? Like there were things then that we thought, they could never possibly be real. It's just, you used to get the little utility belt. Kids would get it, and you'd had the phaser gun and you had the flip phone, beam me up, Scotty, like all this stuff, right?
Beam me up,
and,
Scotty.
And it's just a few years later, it's real. It's no longer science fiction. And you have a guy who lived in the science fiction world of this, who now is... They want to take him into space for real because he played somebody who was going all over the universe. And on top of it, he's the oldest person ever that's gone, that close.
That is so
And
interesting.
then, of course, you have the whole argument as to whether it's really space or not. I mean, it's really more the edge of space because they don't have to come back in, like it doesn't take 18,000 miles an hour to get out. But they're like, you're as far as you can go without having to break through, to that other side thing.
This is so
need the heat shields up, Scotty, to come back in, right?
This is so interesting you bring up that Shatner turned down Virgin Galactic because there's an article that just came out in Newsweek today. That is 10 years ago he turned him down. This was an ask 10 years ago.
Now that I didn't know.
Yeah, and this says the reason that he turned it down was because he has a fear of flying.
No shit.
Shatner has a fear of flying, so he turned it down, and then he overcame his fears, and then he blasted into space with Bezos' rocket. Because right now, Branson's Virgin Galactic got grounded. They're still working on some things, and I think actually right after Bezos' rocket took Shatner up, there was some stock dip for Branson because they had to.
Well, Branson had the one that crashed.
Yeah,
that killed people, right?
Yes, and they had
died.
to. Yeah, and they had to. They're definitely falling further and further behind in this race. But I had no idea that he was offered this 10 years ago to be one of the first people to go up, and he turned it down because of his fear of flying. He overcame that, jumped on Bezos' rocket, Blue Origin, and took him to space.
Apparently, Elon Musk didn't want him.
Apparently not. I don't know, but that's another thing. I mean, we can definitely curtail into this before we get into that.
Elon Musk should take Rogan up.
He should.
Yeah, he should put Rogan.
He should do the first podcast in space.
Yeah, they should get up there and be the first joint smoked in space.
Absolutely. I don't know how safe that is indoors like that, but I guess we'll figure it out.
We used to smoke on airplanes, for God's sake.
That's true. It's crazy to think that was even a thing. But are you a Trekkie or are you a Warsie? Are you a Star Wars guy or a Trekkie guy?
More Trekkie than
Trekkie.
Well, I like Star Wars. I think Star Wars was a great thing.
Not to divide.
But I would probably be more apt, like if it was just a screwing around on a Saturday afternoon and I saw a rerun of Star Trek, I'd probably be more apt to watch a rerun of Star Trek than
to sit
turn
through
on
the whole
Star.
space opera.
Yeah.
I think it's true. I mean, I lean more Star Wars than I do Trekkie, but I do like, I love the fanaticism. Like people get really fanatic about their allegiance. Like there's probably people out there right now who are like, of course I'm a damn Trekkie. You Warsies are a bunch of weirdos. I'm not here to divide at all, but yeah, they get really fanatic.
I remember going to see Star Trek in 1976. I think it was 76 or 77 when it first came out. And the line to get into theater was like 3 blocks long.
Really?
Yeah. My uncle took us when we were kids, me and my cousins.
Star Trek, the motion picture.
What year did it come out?
Release date, December 7th, 1979. Wow.
It was 79?
Yeah, that was this says 79, Star Trek, the motion picture. That was the very first time they
No,
took it
I'm
to
talking
the big
about
screen.
Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars
Star
was 76.
Wars. Yeah,
Star Wars. Spirit of 76,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was it 77? You know what? I got to do an on the fly fact check because I think it's 77. Because if I'm not mistaken, those movies were about 3 years apart. So that's pretty fun. I loved the Star Wars, and I don't think I saw the original. I would have been too young to see it in theaters.
So are you a Captain Kirk fan or are you a Dr. Spock fan?
Oh man,
if you had to pick.
If I had to pick one, I'd go Shatner. I'd go Kirk.
Shatner?
I'd go Kirk, yeah. But I loved Leonard Nimoy as Spock. He was the
Unreal.
shit, man.
Yeah.
That guy was crazy. Star Wars released May of 1977. So yeah, there you go. No, I think that's a good question. I mean, it was funny because that's where the whole, George Takei, God, I always say it wrong. There's one way to say it. That was another thing. He says it wrong, and George likes it said right. And Leonard Nimoy used to get a lot of love, and Shatner didn't particularly care much for that. He was the lead in his opinion. But when people look back on Star Trek, they see Spock. There's a lot more people that maybe would say that Spock was the star of that show.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
it was an interesting show. I mean,
It was an interesting show. And like you said, I mean, a lot of the tech that they're using, I mean, we don't have beaming possibilities yet. Hopefully they'll be able to do that someday where you can just like completely beam yourself to another part of the country. That would be freaking amazing. But like you said, the flip phone and all these other things they were showing. And Gene Roddenberry was well ahead of his time as far as how this stuff was going. And Gene Roddenberry's ashes were actually brought to space. I saw that in 1997, I believe, they brought his ashes to space.
what did they do? Let him go in space? They shot him out into...
Yeah, isn't that kind of cool? That's kind of peaceful.
That's interesting.
Because he went to the final frontier. So, yeah. So, are you a sci-fi guy? Do you like sci-fi?
Some.
Not so much,
I'm not like.
Seek it out.
I would never even try to have a conversation with a real sci-fi
Oh my
person.
God, no, me either.
No, I mean they would take my head off.
I can't carry my weight.
They'd behead me.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
and then get this. So there's another one. So I just heard this, and I was like, this cannot be real, but it's real. So I'm not going to say who it was, but I was watching a podcast. It's a pretty well-known podcast, and the people that do the podcast are biologists. Apparently, biologists have a major issue with the Star Trek, the Star Wars, because all of the things that they show with human beings, aliens, space creatures, or whatever are not biologically correct. Biologically, from it's not genetically correct, right? These adaptations and all the, even when it comes down to things like The Lion King, right? And I'm listening to this conversation, and I'm like, I get it from an educational perspective, but the fact that they're so tweaked by it that they can't even watch it, or they would want to shut it off, I was like, that's really amazing, because there's also a different story being told. Like, there's a different reason. But their viewpoint is that if it's not correct based on biology, they're telling a false story. And I'm like, but it's fucking science fiction. Or it's a Disney. It's like, it's not real to begin with.
The word fiction is in science fiction there, right?
So, that's what I thought.
Okay.
That's what I thought, right? That's what I thought.
So they're not just little green aliens with big long fingers and domed heads? That's not biologically accurate?
Apparently not.
Oh, shit.
Apparently
what are we going to do? What are we going to do? E.T. doesn't like Reese's Pieces?
The Lion King apparently has animals in The Lion King, from what I just learned, that are not in Africa. Like the leafcutter ant is not in Africa. The leafcutter is from South America.
Oh, shit.
But they show the leafcutter in The Lion King.
They do.
And that just tweaked this person off.
Wow.
To the point where they almost shut it off. They literally almost shut it off. And I was like,
what a miserable existence.
About? Like, what is that really about?
Man, I mean, that's like next level critic, like watching every little thing biologically. Like, has he addressed like Jurassic Park and the fact that dinosaurs are in fact extinct?
I didn't hear that.
Okay. That is so interesting.
I didn't hear that.
Like,
I heard they talked about E.T., the movie E.T.
Okay.
And they talked about Star Wars, and they talked about the leafcutter ant, which apparently was just too much.
Yeah.
It was a little too much. So then I started thinking, this goes, and the thing is because I love listening to these scientists. Like, it's so fascinating to listen to them.
They take their shit serious.
Very seriously. But there's this thing with some intellectuals where the need to be right supersedes anything else. And it's almost like it inhibits them from enjoying other things if it's not right based on their intelligence. Oof. And I've known so many people like this, and it's kind of like they don't understand. I think the idea is it's like they don't understand that there is a compulsive or a neurotic need behind that is making that a little bit ridiculous, because it would be one thing if it was a scientific study or they were writing a paper or they were doing something like that. Then I would totally, absolutely get it. But when you're talking about fun, when you're talking about storytelling just for fun, to bring things in to change things, that's what allows us to expand our mind and say, well, what if we did this? Like, what if we did that? But if it's not, it sets them off. Like I'm not trying to say like anything bad. It's really an interesting observation because it's like, if this can't be just this way, I just can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. I can't watch it when there's so much else there to learn from or enjoy, right? Who says you even have to learn anything? You could just sit back and enjoy something. Does it have to be exactly? So what is that about, right? I mean,
I would love to see those particular people's like YouTube history. It's probably just a bunch of footage of eagles and eagles' nests and just sitting there watching it, because everything you watch, like I was thinking, like all the Marvel movies that I've enjoyed, like Iron Man, he couldn't possibly fly that fast. He would crumple up because of the amount of G-forces. Like all of the science that goes into this stuff, I like the fictional aspect of things. I watch them for the enjoyment. This is not science truth. This is science fiction. So that's...
Well, what if, I mean, so think about what we were talking about. If people looked at Star Trek when Star Trek was prime time and they were like, I can't watch this because none of this is real and it's not even freaking possible. Somebody had to expand their mind a little bit to say, can we get a telephone off the wall without a wire and a dial?
Yeah.
You know, can we actually see somebody on a phone? Like, it wasn't possible then. Right. So if people would have been like, I just can't deal with this because it's not real, based on what we currently know, would there ever have been people expanding their consciousness to try to do something that we once thought was impossible? I mean, everything, it's interesting because everything that we have now, at one point, somebody thought it was impossible. Right. We couldn't do it. Right. I mean, look at the Wright brothers, exactly. Right? People thought for the longest, there's no way we're going to get an airplane in the air. Now we send people to space.
Yeah.
But if you shut it down, then you shut down imagination.
Yeah.
You shut down learning. So that's why I think to myself, you know, I understand from an intellectual perspective. I even understand from studying and even from teaching. But when it comes to enjoyment, are you really going to rein your life in that tight where you can't enjoy something? Like, what else are you missing? Because here's the other thing: we read things that are fiction, and we do things for enjoyment that aren't necessarily true, but they also teach us to think differently. It also helps us to learn outside of the box. If we're going to ever have different opinions about things, we have to be able to go there.
Right.
I mean, we don't have to say this is true because it's not factual, but it does teach us to think, what if this, right? What if this? What if some kid was watching Lion King and was like, you know something? There's no leafcutter ants in Africa. But wait a second, hear me out on this. But they started studying leafcutter ants and they found out that they did something that was amazing. And if they brought them to Africa, it would solve a problem. But they would never thought about it because they didn't see something depicted, you know, that wasn't real. But it sparked their imagination. How many things have been created because somebody saw something that wasn't true and thought, what if?
What if?
What if? You know, so I just thought it was interesting.
It is.
It's interesting.
I mean, that's a tight nitpicking situation right there. That's like put a coal up a person's ass and it's a diamond in like a day.
Right.
That's really tight.
Yeah.
I don't want to live my life that tight.
Yeah, no.
And I don't want anything up my butt that's coal. But
no.
I would say
there's a time and place for it, though.
There is.
Like I said, like, yes, when they're doing their work, obviously.
100%.
But I'm just talking about just having fun in life.
Yeah,
you know?
have some life. Yeah, and we are not here to refute that scientists are not important. They're so very important. We love our scientists, but man, when you start diving into that, I love that you bring that up about sparking the imagination, because there's flying cars you can buy now.
Yeah.
You can buy flying cars. There's one on the market right now for $686,000. Now, granted, they're still going through the motions and figuring these things out, but who would have thought that we'd be in a, let alone fly and then fly to the moon, and then now we're flying in cars. Like, these things happen. And I remember seeing flying cars way back when in the 80s watching television shows. So it does spark a little bit of creativity. But there are also, it is science fiction, but it does spark the creative mind to do some great things. I think that's freaking cool. I love that stuff. As you were talking, I was thinking about, like, all the television shows we watch and the fantastic things we see. And I immediately thought of, Khaleesi flying on a dragon in Westeros and all these other sorts of things. And we don't see flying dragons, but hey, maybe at one point in time they were out there and maybe they'll come back. You just never know.
Never know.
I don't know if I'll be here for that. Would you take the trip to space?
Probably not.
Yeah.
So let me.
I asked Steph the same question this morning. We're just talking about what Shatner did.
Yeah.
Shatner just went up, was weightless for a few, and then came right back down.
That I might do. That I might do. But so you're asking me would I do it? I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it, but I don't really have a desire to.
Yeah.
So from a desire perspective, it's not something that's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
Right?
Got you.
It's I don't. Yeah.
There's things. Like,
it's just not on my bucket list.
I don't think, I mean, we had this conversation yesterday, a couple guys and myself, about, because we were talking about Shatner in preparation for the episode. And I was asked with the question, if it was affordable, would you go up? Because right now it's like $450,000 to fly up there. Eventually they'll get that number down because space tourism is a big business. So they'll eventually get that number down to a nice, maybe a 20 grand shot, moon shot or whatever. But there's so many things down here. I know what I get down here. This is the known commodity for me. And who knows, I could step off the curb today and get blasted by a bus. I know that part. But what I don't know about space is shit blows up. Like, things happen. I've seen it happen. I was watching live in '86 when the space shuttle exploded and the whole school was watching. Yeah. That was traumatic enough. The exhilaration of it, I love it. The romantic view of seeing that little blue marble in this sea of black, I love that. Would I go? Probably not. Would I definitely not go to Mars and take the one-way trip that they're going to start doing in the 2030s? No, I'm not interested in that. But it is cool that there are people out there that will do that and that will go out there and will create essentially another Earth on another planet. I think I'm good here. Yeah, maybe. I think I'm good here. Who knows where the next 1,000 years are going to take us? It's crazy to think what we've done in the last 100 years, 200 years. But would I go? No, I don't think I'd go. I just don't know if I have the guts for it. Like, sitting there,
plus we would actually
rocket.
have to find the information as to how we got to another planet to begin with, which apparently is lost at this point in time.
Where do you find that?
I don't know, but it's a weird thing I didn't know. And it's kind of like, how did we lose the information on how to get to the moon?
Yeah, we can get there, but we can't get back. Is that what I heard? Or we just don't know how to get there? No, we can't get there. We just get lost. We took a wrong turn. Maybe Waze doesn't work up in
whatever
cosmos.
It is that they have to figure out to be able to go through the radiation belt and all this other stuff. Apparently, all that information has been lost.
Man,
and
somebody's in trouble.
I heard that manned ships, rockets or whatever space things, have only gone about 400 miles away from Earth, where you'd have to go 250,000 miles to get to the moon. But everything that we learned about doing that, we lost it?
That's weird.
I mean, and I don't know the facts around this or whatever.
That's interesting.
Somebody was trying to explain this to me, that we lit all the information that we gleaned from 69 to 1973. We've not sent anybody any further than 400 miles since 1973 because we lost the information on how to do it.
Yeah, that was a conversation recently about why haven't we gone back to the moon? When are we going to go back to the moon? Well, there's nothing to do on the moon. They really deflect it really quickly. Well, I didn't. Maybe if that's accurate.
Right. That's what I thought. And then somebody said the reason we don't go back is because we lost the directions.
Like, to be able to get the instructions to be able to clear that certain zone.
To whatever it is that they had to do to get there. And I was like, seriously? And they're like, seriously.
Wow.
Or so they say.
Yeah, because all the discussion in space has been around the International Space Station. That's as far as we've gone. Right. We don't go any further than that. I think it's like, I don't know how many 3 or 4 day trip to get to the moon. Somebody must have hit the delete button on that. That's a bad day right there at NASA.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like, how do you lose all the information that we had to do these different trips to the moon? How do you lose that information?
Yeah.
So it's weird.
It is.
It's really weird.
All I know is it's going to be fascinating to see where this space tourism, situation goes, because you've got these billionaires, right? They've thrown their hat in the ring. They're putting so much money into it. You've got Bezos, you've got Musk, you've got Branson, you've got who knows who else is out there taking their billions and creating these space portals that we're going to fly up into the cosmos. But it's really interesting to me to see where it's going to go, because there's almost like this rivalry. There's like this beef that's going on between these billionaires, and it's super fun. Yes, I get the fact, they're just a bunch of rich white guys throwing around their money, but great things are going to come out of this. Like, great thinkers and innovators. There's going to be a lot of fun things that come out of this in the next few years. It's going to be cool. I'm just not going to be on, though. I'm not going to be on one, I don't think. I'm not going to.
I just don't have any desire to it. Like,
I still haven't seen all of North Carolina.
Well, there's that. It's just not something that intrigues me. And there's a lot of other things that I would like to do. It's kind of like I'm at the point in my life where it's like, okay, maybe that would be cool, but why? Just to say that you did it, then what? It doesn't seem that exciting to me just to be able to say that you did it.
Right.
It would be more exciting to say you went to the moon and came back.
Totally.
Like, that would be a little different to me than to just be like, well, I just went up to the upper, atmosphere and came back
Is
down.
the moon made of cheese? Who knows? I don't know. I
Well,
haven't been there.
there's always that.
Man, is there life out there? This is what I'm going to leave you with. Is there life out
geez.
there? Here's my answer to that. I am not arrogant enough to think we're the only people here. Now, why they haven't came and visited us, or maybe they did, but they haven't come back, I don't know. Maybe we're just this little petri
Well, the
dish.
government's apparently taking a new stance on this now.
Oh, they are?
Oh, well, you haven't heard this?
I don't pay much attention to the news.
So the Pentagon came out and admitted that, and they have all the footage of the stuff that happened down around San Diego and on the East Coast.
I've seen that.
Of all they don't call them UFOs, they call them something else, an unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Okay,
I think that's what it is now. And yes, they say that it's real. They don't know what it is. It's there. They've been checking this for a long time. So apparently during COVID is the proper time to come out and drop the bomb on everybody that the UFO idea is actually real. It's not fake, even though it's been faked by, probably thousands of people. But yes, apparently they say that it's actually a real
My
thing.
mind's getting blown here. Like, I was familiar with UFOs. Now I got to be familiar with UAPs.
UAPs.
Unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yes.
Wow, you're blowing my mind today.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I don't know. I just thought it was some guy had a really kick-ass strobe light that was shooting shit in the air.
No, this is real. This is real data. It's real.
Prepare
data
yourself
that
for a
they have.
probing, sir. Hey,
You
there's worse things to do on a Tuesday. That's for sure.
Here's the kick. This is something that I think is hysterical, though. For the longest time, they have assumed that if there was other life that could reach us, that the interaction would be hostile.
Right.
And it cracks me up that we assume that everybody's as big as asshole as we are.
Yeah, why
right?
is that?
And if like, how much further advanced would something have to be to get here?
Right.
And do we not think that their emotional maturity would have advanced also?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, they're going to just come here and kill everybody. And
They're just going to come to communicate. They're going to play like that little piano like they did in Close Encounters.
Maybe
Richard Dreyfuss.
maybe we should grow up a little more before we go probing into space,
Maybe.
with our intentions.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean?
Good point. I never really thought about that. All of our alien invasion stories are very hostile.
They are.
They never come down here just to have a beer and a pizza.
It is. If you listen to those stories, and the things that people are afraid of, their body being probed and everything, it's like where is your imagination coming from? Are you really that neurotic that you think that there's a gray that's going to come down and like probe your rectum?
Yeah.
Like where is your mind? Like,
There's people out there that have had those experiences.
did you have a bad enema experience as
Yeah.
a child or something? Like, what's going
I
on
don't know.
with you, man?
They just came here to they pluck one person up, they study him for a bit, and send him right back down.
Well, that's what they say.
That's fun. Well, I think that
I have not been plucked out.
I
right?
have not been.
Nor
that
do
I know
Nor
of.
am I afraid of.
I've had some interesting experiences, but I don't think that was one of them.
No.
But hey, I'm always open. The truth is out there, so I'm looking for it.
Back to the original topic. Hooray for Shatner.
Hooray for Shatner.
Hooray
Good for Bill.
Hooray for Bezos. Like, great accomplishment. We have to push those things
Innovation.
to get to the next place. Like, we can't. I'm sure that the idea is we can't study much if we can't get there and come back safely. So
That's
they
true.
need to keep doing this until they master it, and then they'll take it to them. They'll take it further.
Great
So,
thinkers, great people, great
Yeah.
things happen. I think it's so cool. So
Yeah.
congrats to Bill. This has been amazing. I'm off to get a probing, so I'll talk to you later.
Later.
Well, there you have it, everyone. William Shatner, congrats again. Going into space at age 90. Good on you, man. That's pretty impressive. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Full Throttle Thursday. Leave us a comment down below. Tell us how we did. Be sure and ring that bell so you get more content like this, and we will see you on the next Successful Mind podcast.